At my sister's wedding, my mom humiliated me by ordering me to stay with the security guards. She said I didn't deserve to be part of such an important event. But when the groom arrived and saw me standing there, his reaction left everyone speechless. In a shocking twist, he canceled the wedding right then and there, asked me to get in the car with him and sped off. However, only 30 minutes into the drive, an unthinkable revelation changed everything completely. My name is Sophia Turner, and if anyone had told me that my sister's wedding day would change my life, I would have laughed in disbelief. But life has ways of surprising you, don't you think? Let me take you to the beginning of this whirlwind. It all started when I received the invitation just 3 days before the wedding. I found a cream-colored envelope in my mailbox, elegant, with my name written in gold calligraphy. However, upon opening it, I got a big surprise. The card didn't include a seat number or a time for the rehearsal dinner, as is usually common. Instead, there was only one simple instruction: to report to the staff area of the parking lot upon arrival. I read it twice, feeling a knot in my stomach. My sister Lila had always been the golden child. Everything about her was perfect. Her looks, her career, and now her fiancé Nathan Wells, a tech magnate who ran one of the largest companies in the country. Compared to her, I was just me. I worked as a social worker in Seattle, helping families and children in difficult situations. My life wasn't glamorous, but it had meaning. My parents never saw it that way. "Why can't you be more like Lila?" my mom, Margaret, would say, rolling her eyes at my thrift store outfits in my small apartment. "She's marrying Nathan Wells, for God's sake. And look at you. What do you have to show?" But I loved my job. Even if they didn't understand, I loved seeing the kids I helped find homes, seeing their smiles when they realized that someone cared. To me, that was worth more than designer dresses or grand wedding halls. Still, I couldn't help but feel a pang when I saw that invitation. It wasn't an oversight. It was a clear message. They didn't think I belonged there, among their elite crowd. And despite my better judgment, I decided to go. After all, she was still my sister. And despite everything, I wanted to support her. The wedding day was bright and sunny. One of those days that make you feel like everything should be perfect. I arrived at the venue, a huge mansion converted into an event space on the outskirts of the city. I parked my old, slightly worn-out car among a sea of luxury vehicles and headed to the staff entrance as instructed. A security guard stopped me, checked my invitation, and then pointed to a side door. "Staff areas around the back," he said curtly. I bit my lip, feeling a wave of shame, but nodded and walked down a narrow hallway that led to the kitchen. The staff was busy, the chef shouting orders and waiters balancing trays of champagne. I felt completely out of place in my handmade dress, which I had spent weeks sewing in the evenings after work. It wasn't designer, but it was elegant and made with care. Finally, I was directed to my place at the ceremony. It wasn't a seat, but a corner behind a pillar at the back of the room. From there, I could see the luxurious decorations, the flower arrangements that must have cost a fortune, the gleaming chandeliers, and the tables decorated with crystals and gold details. Every element screamed opulence, and with every detail I felt smaller. Just before the ceremony began, I saw Lila. She looked stunning in her custom-made wedding dress, her impeccable makeup, and her hair styled in an intricate updo. She was radiant, but when her eyes met mine, her smile transformed into something cold. "Glad you could make it," she said as she passed, her tone laced with sarcasm. "Try not to embarrass me, okay?" I clenched my fists but didn't say anything. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of knowing how much her words hurt. The ceremony began shortly after, and despite everything, I couldn't deny that it was beautiful. A string quartet played softly as Lila walked down the aisle on our father's arm. But my eyes weren't on her for long. They were on Nathan, standing at the altar in his elegant suit. When our eyes met, something shifted. He froze for a split second, his expression changing from quiet confidence to a mixture of surprise and recognition. I couldn't quite place what it was, but it was enough to make my heart race. Nathan Wells wasn't just Lila's fiancé. He was Nick, the man I had loved 12 years ago. Back then I was 19 years old, a college student full of dreams of changing the world. Nick was 23, a passionate programmer who wanted to use technology to make a difference. We met at a community event where I was protesting the demolition of a historic neighborhood to build new developments. Nick not only supported me with words but with actions. We exchanged ideas on ways to help the community. We spent months together talking about everything. Our dreams, our future, even the idea of starting something together. But one day, he disappeared without a word. I called, I searched, but it was as if he had vanished into thin air. My mom told me to forget him, to focus on my studies. Eventually I did, but I never stopped wondering what had happened. And now here he was, Nathan Wells, the man who had built a tech empire, standing at the altar with my sister. My heart pounded as I watched him. He had recognized me. He remembered what we had. And if he did, why had he never contacted me? I had no answers. But I knew one thing. This wedding was about to take a turn that no one expected. The ceremony ended, and everyone headed to the reception hall. I stayed in my corner, unsure if I wanted to face the crowd to see Nick, no Nathan. He had left me completely off balance. I wrung my hands as I adjusted my dress, trying to keep my emotions in check. Finally, I entered the reception area. It was as extravagant as the ceremony. Crystal chandeliers hung above tables draped in silk, while waiters passed with trays of champagne flutes. I didn't belong there, and the few glances I caught from the other guests confirmed it. I found my place, or rather the place Lila had designated for me. It was a small table tucked away near the back, far from the main table where Lila, Nathan, and the rest of the wedding party sat. I sat at my table, which was practically hidden behind a huge flower arrangement. The place setting was noticeably different. While all the other tables had fine china and polished silverware, mine had plastic utensils. On the tablecloth was a handwritten note that read, "Don't overstep." I recognized Lila's handwriting. She had gone out of her way to humiliate me, but I refused to let her win. I wouldn't cause a scene. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. While I sat there, I couldn't help but let my eyes drift towards Nathan. He was sitting next to Lila, but his attention wasn't on her. He seemed to be looking around the room, distracted, as if searching for something or someone. It wasn't long before our eyes met again. The moment stretched, filled with unspoken questions and a wave of memories I wasn't ready to face. Then, something unexpected happened. As Nathan raised his glass to toast, his hand slipped, and the wine glass crashed to the floor. The room went silent and all eyes turned to him. But Nathan didn't seem to notice the mess. His gaze was fixed on me, his expression a mixture of shock, regret, and something else I couldn't identify. Lila leaned over and whispered something to him, but he barely reacted. Later, during dinner, Nathan approached me. My heart raced as I watched him stand next to my table, his imposing figure before me. "Sophia," he said, his voice low and charged with emotion. "Is it really you?" I looked at him, unsure whether to feel anger or relief. "Yes, it's me," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "And I see you've moved up in the world, Nick. Oh, I should call you Nathan now." He winced at my words, pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. "I didn't expect to see you here," he admitted. "When I saw your name on the guest list, I thought it must be a mistake." I couldn't contain the bitterness in my voice. "Why? Did you think I'd disappeared forever, just like you?" He flinched and ran a hand through his hair. "Sophia, you don't understand. I didn't leave you by choice." I narrowed my eyes. "Oh, really? Because it sure felt like a choice when you disappeared without a word. I looked for you, Nick. I called, I emailed, I even went to places where I thought you might be. But you were gone, as if you'd never existed." Nathan leaned forward, and his voice dropped to a whisper. "I didn't know what happened until recently. My father made sure we weren't together." I froze, the weight of his words falling on me like a bucket of cold water. "What do you mean?" I asked. Nathan hesitated, his jaw clenching before he answered. "It's a long story, but the short version is that my father saw you as a threat. Back then I didn't have the power I have now. I was just a young programmer with dreams, and he had control of everything." I stared at him, my heart pounding. "What did your father do?" Nathan looked down. "He found out about your activism, the protests you were organizing, and decided you were bad for the company's image." I felt anger and confusion churning inside me. "So he told you to leave me, and you just did?" He shook his head quickly. No, he didn't tell me anything directly." "He went to your mother." The air seemed to disappear from the room as his words hit me. What are you saying? I asked, my voice shaking. Nathan looked pained but continued. He paid your mother to make sure you stayed away from me. I gasped. That can't be true. My mom wouldn't do something like that. But even as I said it, memories of the past started to click into place like pieces of a puzzle. My mother's sudden insistence that I change schools, the strange influx of money that paid for Lila's lavish lifestyle and expensive college tuition. It all made sense. Nathan kept talking. He offered her a lot of money, enough to convince her to move you away from me, to transfer you to another school, and to tell me that you didn't want anything to do with me anymore. I felt the floor drop out from under me. My mother had always told me that Nick wasn't worth it, that I should focus on other things. And now I knew why. I clenched my fists, feeling rage bubbling beneath the surface. Are you telling me that my own mother sold me? Nathan nodded grimly. I didn't know until recently. I found the paperwork for the payments my father made to your mother. When I confronted him, he admitted it. He said he was protecting me and the company. I shook my head, a mixture of disbelief and fury burning inside me. And you never tried to find me? You just believed him. Nathan's eyes softened. I thought you didn't want me, Sophia. He showed me messages, fake messages. He said you had moved on. I wanted to scream, to cry, to unleash everything I was feeling. But instead I stood up, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. I need some air. As I turned to leave, I could feel Nathan's eyes on me. But I didn't stop. This wasn't just about us anymore. It was a betrayal by the people who were supposed to love me most. And I wasn't going to rest until I uncovered the whole truth. I walked out of the reception hall, dazed, my heart pounding and my head spinning. Nathan's revelations had unearthed something deep within me. My own mother had accepted money to get me out of his life. The pieces fit too perfectly to deny it any longer. But I still needed to hear it from her. I needed to hear her admit it. I found her near the bar, laughing and chatting with a group of elegantly dressed women. Their laughter filled the air as if she didn't have a care in the world. My stomach churned at seeing her so at ease, so indifferent. How could she be so carefree after everything she had done? Mom, I called, my voice firm. The women turned to look at me, their eyes scanning me as if I didn't belong there. But I didn't care. My mother's smile faltered when she saw the expression on my face. Sophia, she said with a nervous laugh, taking a step towards me. What are you doing? You're causing a scene. Oh, I'm causing a scene? I retorted sharply, raising my voice. Is that what you said when you accepted the money to make sure I disappeared from Nick's life? Her face paled and I knew I had hit a nerve. The women around us exchanged uncomfortable glances and slowly backed away, sensing that this wasn't a conversation for an audience. Let's talk somewhere private, she said through gritted teeth, grabbing my arm and glaring at me as she led me to a quieter corner of the room. When we were alone, I released her arm and faced her. Tell me the truth, Mom. Did you take money from Victor Wells to get rid of me? She sighed, smoothing the fabric of her dress as if that could somehow shield her from what was coming. Sophia, you don't understand. Don't tell me I don't understand. I interrupted. I couldn't wait any longer. Just tell me the truth. Her eyes darted around as if searching for a way out, but there was none. Fine, she said finally. Yes, I took the money. But it was for your own good. For my own good? I repeated, my voice cracking. How is destroying my relationship for my own good? She crossed her arms, her expression hardening. Nathan wasn't someone you could build a future with. He comes from a world you don't belong in, Sophia. His father made it clear that if you stayed in his life, he would ruin you both. I did what I had to do to protect you. I stared at her in disbelief, feeling something break inside me. Protect me? You didn't protect me. You sold me. You cast me aside and made me think he had abandoned me. It gave you a better chance in life, she retorted, her tone cold. You went to a better school, you got your degree, and now you have a job that suits you. And Lila, she was meant for this kind of life. The money helped her get where she needed to be. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So it was all about Lila, about making sure she got everything while I was left aside. My mother's silence was louder than any words. My chest tightened with anger, but also with a deep, aching sadness. I trusted you, I said softly. You were supposed to take care of me, not sell me to the highest bidder. I turned and walked away before she could say another word. I didn't want to hear any more of her excuses. My hands trembled as I made my way back to the reception hall running. I couldn't stay silent about this. The truth needed to come out. When I entered the hall, the party was in full swing. Guests were laughing, dancing, and clinking glasses. Lila was in the center of it all, her arm entwined with Nathan's, her smile as dazzling as ever. But Nathan's eyes weren't on her. They were on me. I walked directly toward the main table, ignoring the stares and whispers. As I approached, Lila's smile wavered when she saw me. "Sophia," she said, her voice strained. "What are you doing?" "I need to say something," I said, loud enough for everyone around us to hear. Her eyes narrowed. "This is my wedding. Don't ruin it." "Your wedding was already ruined from the moment you built it on lies," I retorted. The room fell silent. The music cut off as everyone turned to stare. I looked at Nathan, who gave a subtle nod, encouraging me to continue. "He knows the truth," I said, looking directly at him. "I know about the money. I know how you made sure I was out of Nathan's life. All to protect a business deal." Gasps rippled through the room. But I wasn't finished. I turned to Lila. "And you knew. You knew our mother sold me so you could have your perfect little life." Lila's face flushed crimson, and she opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Nathan stood up, his voice calm. "She didn't know," he said, addressing the crowd. "But now everyone does. The truth is, this wedding is off." Lila let out a choked cry as the room erupted in chaos. I stood there, feeling vindicated but utterly exhausted. The truth was out, and nothing would ever be the same again. The room was a mess after Nathan's announcement. Guests whispered in shock. Others pulled out their phones to capture the drama. Lila was frozen, her face a mask of humiliation. My mother hovered near the door, looking like she wanted to disappear. I stood there, feeling the weight of every word I had just said, every truth that had been revealed. Nathan stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "I will not go through with this wedding," he said firmly. "I will not live a lie to satisfy someone else's ambitions. This is not the life I want." Lila turned to him, her eyes blazing. "You can't be serious. After everything I've done, everything we've built together, you're going to throw it all away for her." She pointed a finger at me, and her words were filled with disdain. Nathan met her gaze calmly. "What have we built exactly, Lila? A relationship orchestrated by our families? A merger disguised as love?" He shook his head. "No. I'm done being controlled. This is over." Lila's shriek echoed through the room, and she lunged for her bouquet, flinging it in our direction. But it didn't land on me. It landed on a tower of champagne glasses. The glasses shattered against the floor, gasps filling the room as shards of crystal scattered everywhere. But I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction. Lila's perfect day was crumbling, just like the lies that had held it together. Nathan turned to me, his voice now softer. "Sophia, can we talk somewhere quieter?" I hesitated but finally nodded. "Okay." We stepped out onto the terrace. The cool evening air was a stark contrast to the heat and tension inside. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The stars above Seattle shone serenely, indifferent to the storm we had just unleashed. Nathan broke the silence. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice laden with regret. "For everything. For not finding you sooner. For believing the lies my father told me. I should have fought harder for us." I looked at him, searching his face for sincerity. "Why didn't you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why didn't you?" He winced, running a hand through his hair, his expression pained. "I thought you didn't want me, Sophia. My father showed me fake messages. I realize that now. He said you had moved on, that you were with someone else. I believed him, because I thought I wasn't good enough for you." I let his words sink in, the years of misunderstanding, of pain weighing on me. "And now?" I asked softly. "What do you want now?" Nathan took a deep breath, his gaze steady. "I want to make things right. I want to build something real, not just with you, but for the people who have been hurt by the kind of greed and manipulation my father represented. I took control of the company, Sophia. As of last week. I'm the majority shareholder. I blinked surprised. You mean? He nodded. Yes. My father signed over his shares as an early wedding gift. Ironic, isn't it? He thought he was securing his legacy, but I was planning to take the company in a completely different direction. His words sent a spark of hope through me, but I couldn't ignore the past. And what about us? I asked. Do you expect me to just forget everything that happened? Nathan stepped closer, his voice soft but firm. No, I don't expect that. But I'm asking for a chance to show you that I've changed, that I'm not the man who let you down all those years ago. I hesitated, my heart warring with my head. Part of me wanted to walk away, to protect myself from being hurt again. But another part of me, the part that had never stopped loving him, wanted to believe he was telling the truth. Okay, I said finally, but it will take time. A lot of time. His face lit up with a small, hopeful smile. I can wait. We walked back into the reception hall, where the chaos was already settling. Lila and my mother were nowhere to be seen, probably too ashamed to face the guests. The murmur of whispers followed us as we entered, but I didn't care anymore. For the first time in years I felt free. Nathan took the microphone and addressed the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice firm, this evening has taken an unexpected turn, but it is also the beginning of something new. As my first act as CEO of VTech, I'm proud to announce the launch of the Turner Wells Foundation, a program dedicated to supporting marginalized communities and creating opportunities for those who need them most. The audience reacted with gasps, followed by scattered applause. Nathan turned to me, his eyes soft. I couldn't think of anyone better to head it than Sophia Turner. Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized the magnitude of what he was offering me. Not just a job, but the chance to turn all of this, the pain, into something meaningful. I nodded, speechless, and the applause grew louder. In the weeks that followed, the foundation became a reality. We funded programs for education, housing, and community development. We were finally living up to the ideals we had once dreamed of together. Lila married someone else, a minor celebrity who loved the spotlight as much as she did. My mother, ostracized from our lives, eventually moved away. As for Nathan and me, we took things slow, rebuilding the trust that had been broken. On quiet evenings, we would sit on the terrace talking about the future. And one day, when he slipped a simple gold band onto my finger, I knew I had finally come home. Sometimes justice isn't about revenge. It's about rebuilding. And for us, that was the greatest triumph of all.